Aloha Aina, Ano Ai, Velina Kako. Welcome to Free Hawaii News, brought to you by the Kawani Foundation, presenting Hawaiian perspectives on a broad range of topics and issues affecting the Hawaiian Islands, the Pacific, and the world. Your hosts for Free Hawaii News are Leon Kaulahau-Siu, musician, composer, diplomat, and political analyst, and Hinaleimoana Wong, Kumuhula, filmmaker, cultural and Hawaiian language preservationist, and community leader. And now, Free Hawaii News.
Ano ai ke aloha ia kākoa pauloa e ke anaina o ka pai aina aloha kākou e hui nei I ke iahi. Mahalo anu ia o kou no ke kipa ana mai o wau no ke ia o Kumuhina.
We are just so pleased to have you here for this episode of Free Hawaii News. Recovery efforts are still continuing after the devastating fires in Lahaina on Maui. Many different businesses, organizations, communities, and individuals have stepped forward in the 3 weeks since the blaze destroyed most of Lahaina and parts of upcountry. For a report on the latest details, we go now to Maui, where Vicky Palafox is standing by.
Aloha, Leon. It's great to be here to kuka with you.
How are the people of Maui and Lahaina doing?
As far as the island in its whole entirety, it's like business as usual, with a little bit of aloha in there, in the efforts because of Lahaina. Our Lahaina people are still very much guessing and waiting and wondering what is to come next. They have much to say of these things. So right now, it is great to hear them playing Kanaka, and it's beautiful to see the children out and about playing and laughing and riding their bicycle, which as prior to this, the first few days of the fire, it was silent. It was a lot of crying, a lot of sadness. But we have moved on from that, and we will continue to move forward.
What has it been like for you?
This has been like a roller coaster, and it's been a lot of wondering what is truly needed, really trying to touch base with independent pods. And when I say independent, these are Kanaka Maoli people that are truly within the community that has suffered much, people that understands the people in the village of Lahaina. We mahalo them. The sadness of this is the confusion at one point, confusion of what's going to happen to our village. Will we be able to rebuild our village as truly as it should be, with the minds and thoughts and the heartaches of losing our loved ones, our kupunas, and our children? As you know, within a village, everyone is ohana. There is no blood quantum. There is no color of skin. There is no, you're not my ohana. You're not my same, because you know come from Maui. Even if you just moved to Maui, we already accept you as koko, as ohana. There has been a lot of determinants in this part, but I know Lahaina will always move forward and always choose the good.
Vicky, could you please tell us about the recovery efforts? How are they coming along now on Maui?
The recovery efforts are more than halfway through. We have heard and seen there have been a lot of FEMA addition as far as bodies and dogs that are helping to locate our loved ones. Truly within the community, much sadness and anticipation of trying to find or locate their ohana. We understand that the emergency crews that have come from afar is trying their best to do their best to try to locate our loved ones that has been lost. Yet here we stand in harmony as one, and as one ohana with music and laughter, and waiting for the names of our kupuna and or our children that has never yet been found. And the recovery is a sad time really right now. But I can see day by day that the community is building a stronger foundation and understanding that this will take time and effort of others. Our community stand as one, and we pulley and ask Akua for guidance in all these things.
Where can people donate money?
I'd like to share a beautiful scenario with you, and it is Kanaka again. Remember, race isn't part of this, not at all. But the Ohana and the families of Kalahui on Oahu and another group combined together, and they raised monies. I'm not going to say the amount, but it's a beautiful number. And what they did was take these envelopes, prayerfully filled each envelope with keni, with the monies that was donated. And they were moving on the spirit. And they bought airplane tickets. And they flew over here. Kaliad helped to transport them into Lahaina. They went to the independent pods, knowing that someone there they would recognize, and surely Akua does his blessings. In each of these pods, they found individuals that they knew very well from visits that they had come, and they helped to hand envelopes with money inside to the families that were really needing these things. And they continue to these independent pods. So where can you donate? We have a few. Kalahui is one. The people here in Lahaina and these groups that have come and the outside groups that have donated brings it personally to the people. So please, if you want to donate, be very careful and cautious in who you donate to and how you donate to.
How long you think that recovery will continue?
At this time, they are still trying to find and search for ohanas. This recovery will be in a couple months. The next step would be the cleanup, which they have started already. So when we talk as a group, as a ohana, we understand that this will take more than a year to at least settle the aina, the cleaning, the removal of all this debris that is contaminated. The biggest conversation that we are having now in the communities is the quality of aina. How do you take these things? And we have been blessed to not have rain to come so that these things don't seep into the ground. But it doesn't mean that it's not still continuing to grow into aina. How long will that take to clean aina so that we can once again grow an ulu tree? Our kupunas was talking, and it'll take at least 2 years to just try to get the aina back to at least where we could plant grass. Suggestions too from kupuna. It maybe could be a little earlier if, and we are practicing that, to plant the grasses, and the grass will allow and pull those elements out of the ground. That may be a little faster than trying to hemo the lepo to have our community replaced again. That will take a couple years to even get the plan for the groundwork. But our kupunas and our makuas and the upias here in Lahaina are talking about leaving Front Street as a big memorial park and to build a structure for memories to continue and some place where the families can go and think about their loved ones. Total time to finish all this and bring our land back to where almost as perfect as it was, unmentionable time because of all the chemicals, man-made chemical that we have no understanding of, but we understand that the destruction that it causes.
Is there talk of rebuilding Lahaina town?
The people here in Lahaina has been talking about preserving the whole Front Street. No businesses, none whatsoever, and to just leave it as a big open space in memory of this devastating change in our life, and especially for those that have passed that we had lost in the fires. So no construction whatsoever on the whole Front Street, no commerce whatsoever in that space. I leave these things with you. Mahalo nui for this opportunity to share only a tidbit of the challenges that the people of Lahaina are going through. Mahalo. With all this love and aloha that has been sent to the island of Maui, especially to Lahaina. We, the people of Lahaina, appreciate all the love and all the support that our people here on islands and our people from afar have shown us, had shared with us. Much aloha to you and much more blessings. You will never be forgotten in memory and in history, and also the rebuilding of Lahaina town. Mahalo nui to all of you. May the blessings that you have shared with us continue to flow within your family and within your community. Mahalo nui, ia oe, ia o ko. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Vicky, for being with us for this episode of Free Hawaii News.
In today's segment that we bring to you of Free Hawaii News, we, Leon and myself, often share with you about different things, my thoughts as well as our talk about the Pacific Way. And today we are faced with a lot in our community, and it comes to us from the island of Maui. For me personally, this is the island where my grandfather's genealogy is rooted on the west side of Maui. So this hits home like no other. Maui, Lahaina, Moku'ula. Everybody on every island is doing all their best to organize, gather containers, ship them over to Maui, and people are gathering clothes, people are gathering water, food. Even on the island of Maui, we saw how families were waiting on the roadsides for people coming from Kahakuloa Way, holding signs saying, food and water here. Come and rest. Come and come and be with them. And that's how our people show support. That is some of the truest examples of the Pacific Way. Mm-hmm. We don't look at what it's going to cost us. Mm-hmm. We don't look at No more too much room in the house, but that's okay. You come stay over here with us. The Pacific Way means that we have to look, especially in our Hawaiian community, just at that level alone. We look to our people to open up places and spaces, whether they're your own private spaces at home, whether they're community spaces. A need is certainly great, but that is Pacific Way because we respond. The word is kokua and laulima, many hands. We have to keep in mind also that our leadership out there at the various levels, even at the community grassroots level, may our leadership be empowered to see the longer term needs and the longer term vision. There's immediate needs, and to stabilize our community, we have to make sure that they have food and water and that they will have shelter.
The day after the fire, I was at Auntie Blanche's Blanche McMillan in Waimanalo. As for those of you who don't know, Auntie Blanche's is a homeless community. That is, people have come because they have no place else to go, and Auntie Blanche went in and collected people from off the beaches and all that and said, come stay at my place. And they have about 80 residents there now. At one time it was up to 100, and they have gardens and all that, and so people have a place to stay, either in tents or in some small houses that they built. But when I went there the day after the fires in Lahaina, they already had started a drive, a food drive, and clothing and all that. They had pallets and pallets of people. First of all, there was this traffic jam of cars lined up to come deliver things because Auntie Blanchett put out the call in Waimanalo, said, anybody who can kokua our family, our ohana on Maui, please drop off what you want. And so that became the center for drop-offs from the Waimanalo community. And they already had, when I was there, the day after, they already had about 2 container loads full of food and supplies ready to go. So, and I saw evidence of this all over the islands. That is, everybody was responding as a community in the Pacific Way. That's what we do. The way of Aloha is not only going to get us through these kinds of temporary hardships, although this is a major catastrophe, but the way of Aloha is going to get us through this. It's also going to mean it pulls us together as a nation, and as a nation that relies and trusts in Aloha to get us through. So it's not all the material goods and those types of things, but it's the heart of our people that is going to pull us through, not only through this crisis, but over that prolonged 130-year occupation and usurpation of our nation. This is where we go. We apply the way of Aloha, and we are going to succeed in being liberated from captivity, so to speak. And already this captivity does not have us in captive. We are right now functioning as Hawaiians do,
Yes.
as a nation does,
Yes.
taking care of one another.
Yes.
Aloha ke kahi, ke kahi.
Aloha ke kahi ke kahi.
Yeah, and aloha aina and kapu aloha. All of these significant ways of expression all have aloha at its basis, and that's the basis in which we will succeed, not
Yes.
only in recovering from
Yes.
disasters,
Yes.
but really recovering our nation from a long, prolonged pilikia that we've had.
The saga continues in the efforts to shut down the U.S. Navy's huge leaking underground fuel storage tanks at Kapukaki, commonly called Red Hill. On top of the delays in actually removing the fuel, we recently heard that the U.S. Navy removed the Red Hill fuel director from her position. Lieutenant Commander Shannon Banks was removed because shortly before the 2 toxic spills of jet fuels occurred, she had warned her superiors of the risk of a dangerous fuel spill at the Red Hill fuel facility. Then in October 2021, it happened. A fuel leak from the U.S. Navy's Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility poisoned the water system for nearly 100,000 residents, mostly military dependents. As a result of the contamination, families who live near Red Hill filed lawsuits against the U.S. Navy for the fuel leak, which poisoned their drinking water. Recently, the U.S. Navy announced they want to give those family members both physical and mental health examinations, including giving 5 and 6-year-olds examinations without their parents being present. To tell us more about this and bring us up to date on other Red Hill developments, we have Oahu Water Protector Healani Sonora-Pale in the studio with us. Aloha e Healani. Aloha mai.
Aloha Komohina. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you for covering this issue. It's such an important issue. The Oahu Water Protectors have been on this issue since November of 2021, when 19,000 gallons of fuel leaked into our drinking water and poisoned 93,000 residents. It's been 19 months since that happened, and we are still yet waiting for the U.S. military, the U.S. Navy in particular, to shut down the Red Hill storage fuel, fuel storage facility, and also to defuel those tanks and to clean up the mess that they've made. It's been pretty much 19 months of community voices, community members from all sectors saying, we need to shut down this facility, we need to defuel those tanks, we need to protect our aquifer, we need to protect our future. Oahu has one sole source aquifer, and if that aquifer is poisoned beyond what is poison now, where it's undrinkable, then life and the future here on Oahu is threatened, and it is threatened right now. There's still 100 million gallons of fuel sitting 100 feet above the aquifer, and the Navy and the Department of Defense has pretty much dragged their feet in regards to defueling and in regards to addressing the concerns that community members have brought up. There are multiple lawsuits by affected families. 93,000 people were poisoned. A lot of these families were in the military, but a lot were not in the military as well. Hundreds went to the ER during those couple weeks when the initial release of fuel into the drinking water was done. And what these families are dealing with are long-term health issues. You have 5, 6-year-olds with health issues that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their life. There is no cure. Lymph node issues, liver issues. It's such the impacts of the spill is going to be felt for generations to come.
Would you say, Helani, that in the community, especially in and amongst our Kanaka community, are there mixed sentiments? Is everybody unanimous in their thinking? Have you received any any clear support or opposition, especially with regards to representation, on the community representation initiative? That's
actually a really good question. What happens with these types of community representative committees that the government forms and agencies like the EPA forms, is that it can really undermine and divide the community, and that's what we're hoping not to, which is why we're being very transparent about this whole process, and we're very supportive of it. But there are one or two voices that are not supportive of jumping onto the CRI. It would be disingenuous of us as the Oahu Water Protectors not to support it, because it has been something we have been asking for 19 months consistently. It's been in all of our press releases. It's been in all of our statements, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to please everyone. It's not going to represent everyone's interest, but what we're going to make sure that it does represent Kanaka Maoli interest, and that it will represent a good portion of the community that's been involved with this issue from day one.
Well, excellent. And I think that if we spoke to the elephant in the room, especially in and amongst our Kanaka community, it's a very sore spot when there's an involvement at any level from the U.S. federal government. I do believe, though, that what you've told us about participating in the Community Representation Initiative, that is consistent with the logic that tells us that under our current political existence, and the U.S. government continues to govern our affairs, the U.S. government continues to say yes or no to things that happen here, they have accountability. And, you know, what you've told us is that you're wanting to be a Kanaka there and to help hold this body accountable. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being able to bring us up to speed about this. And, you know, we do have other curiosities that are supplemental to this topic of Red Hill. Tell us, do you have any thoughts about the U.S. government wanting to give exams to physical and mental exams to the residents who have been affected by this, and especially not only the adults, but they want to examine the children too?
The U.S. military is the biggest gaslighter. They are the biggest polluter in the world. They're the biggest institutional user of fossil fuels in the world, and they have destroyed communities and families, and they are allowed to do so because they are very good at controlling the narrative and making sure that they never get held accountable for any of their actions that are like violations against human rights. It's like crimes against humanity we're dealing with here with the Oahu Red Hill issue. And this is just appalling. It's appalling that they're going to be doing this, or they're asking for this, and it's all to justify or delegitimize the voices of the affected families. And that's what they're trying to do here. And they've done that over and over again. What has happened with the movement is we become very close with a lot of these affected families. And it's I think the Red Hill issue has made people here, residents on Oahu, rethink the military presence here and rethink, the future of Hawaii. I've heard military families say they're committing war crimes against us. I've heard military families say Hawaiians deserve sovereignty, and that Hawaii should be deoccupied. All in this movement, and it's because of the nature of the U.S. military. It's insidious, and they have been illegally occupying Hawaii for 130 years. And under this occupation, our people have suffered. And now they're doing it to their own men and women in service and their families. And we're kind of almost in the same boat in a way. You know, we're all the same victims of the same perpetrator, who's basically who's threatening our future and the future of our children. And they'll do it by any means necessary.
Well, so then would you say that there's some actual real progress in getting Red Hill shut down, or is the U.S. Navy still perhaps moving in a way, at least from where you stand, because you've been a part of our community setting the precedent and leading? Do you think that they're stonewalling this, or do you think that it's actually making some progress?
I think there is progress being made right now, but we can never let the pressure off. Like, we can not take our finger off of that button. Like, we need to keep that pressure on the U.S. military. We need to continue to be vocal, continue to be visual in our support of the shutdown of Red Hill. And it is wonderful. I have to put a shout out to everyone who has a bumper sticker, "Shut down Red Hill," on their car. It's so joyful to see that when you're driving in Oahu, you know, and it's all because of the support of the community. And I mean, it's something so basic as fresh, clean drinking water. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for life itself. Ola I kawai.
Ai polole. Without water, there is no life.
Yeah.
And thus, tell us, when it comes to the role of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to protect our most precious and valuable resource, how is the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, how are they factoring into this Red Hill disaster?
Well, I think they're moving very carefully. They've met with a lot of community groups recently and different sectors of the community. And, you know, they have been criticized publicly because of their inaction and because of their failure to prevent this from happening. I mean, we had a warning. We had 24,000 gallons spilled in 2014, and they had a consent order to fix this problem, and the EPA did nothing. Instead, they ate up whatever the U.S. military was feeding them, and you know, kind of let the U.S. military do whatever they want. So now they have, you know, they're part of the problem, and they should take some of the blame for the families that were poisoned, and they should be held accountable as well. But so there is always this trust issue, you know, with the U.S. military, with the EPA, with these federal agencies that are coming in to shut it down, and we have to be warriors out there. We have to maka'ala, and you cannot be complacent. We're not there yet. It's not done yet. Even after the 100 million gallons are defueled, there's still going to be a couple 100,000 gallons on the bottom, because there'll be like on the bottom part of the tanks. They won't be able to take that out. They have to do it by hand, like manually, and it'll be full of sludge. So that will take, they're saying, years to take out all that sludge. And then there's also the issue of, you know, they made a mess, so they need to clean it up. They can't do what they did to Kaho'olawe with Red Hill. Not now, not here, not on this island. Because what they did with Kaho'olawe was they left their mess there. They gave a few $1 million for cleanup, and it's still uninhabitable. So with Red Hill, this is not going to end once the 100 million gallons are defueled. There is still going to be sludge. There's still going to be 100,000 or 200,000 gallons of fuel left on the bottom of the tanks. And then we will still have to keep the pressure on for the U.S. military to clean up the water, to clean up the aina, and to do what's right for the families that they poisoned.
Mahalo Healani. So, if we were to look to you as one of our community leaders, and you look straight into the camera there, and you were to talk to our people, what would you say to our people?
Well, I believe, you know, all of us here on Oahu, to our families, our Kanaka Maui families, and to our ohana who have come from afar to settle here in Hawaii, we all love this place. We all want to raise our kids here. We want our grandchildren to live here. It's a matter of us being maka'ala. It's a matter of us participating in these discussions around the shutdown of Red Hill, and it's a matter of us becoming the warriors that we need to. Warriors of peace to protect our water, to protect our vai, to protect life here on Oahu. We are protecting our future. This is what we have to do to protect what we love. So get involved. Follow us on social medias. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. watch the news, read the paper, come out to these community meetings, and have a voice. Speak up for our future. Speak up for what we love, which is Hawaii and our children. Mahalo.
Give them a shout out to your the social media pages and any email or any website that they can come and get direction from you.
Yeah, so on Twitter, we're at Oahu WP. On Instagram, we're at Oahu Water Protectors. And on Facebook, we're at Oahu Water Protectors. So follow us, check us out, message us if you have any questions, you want to help. We are planning more events coming up to raise awareness and to keep this issue alive. Please don't let it die. And a shout out to our Maui families who are going through another crisis. Again, dealing with water. The only reason why Lahaina is so dry is because of what the corporations have done. Lahaina was once filled with fish ponds. It was once a very lush area, and global warming, capitalism, and colonization has done some damage. And those are all, it's all connected. It's all connected. What's happening in Maui, what's happening here on Oahu, and we stand in solidarity with Maui.
Mahalo e Heleni. Mahalo for your leadership. Mahalo for your contributions to our community, and mahalo for continuing to get the information out to the people who are able to follow you. And I know personally, that you give countless hours and you lose sleep because you're always being vigilant for our community. So mahalo anui.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo for having me.
Mahalo.
What we're talking about now at the United Nations is how do we extract ourselves through peaceful means from continuing a colonial global system. And this is really an exciting time because lots of nations are looking at it. The nations of Africa, the nations of South America, the Pacific Islands, and Southeast Asia, and all over are looking at what is a better way for us to get along as nations without having to all conform to the colonial system that had been implanted throughout the world. And so this has a lot of different implications. It has to do with our economies and how we might be able to conduct commerce and trade and all that in a much more responsible way. And it has to do with environmental situations. It has to do with the systems of justice, and it has to do with the systems of peacemaking. So at the United Nations, we're about to embark into a more, serious and examination of what's going on in the world so that we might be able to make these improvements by returning people to the values and to the customs and to the traditions of who they are, no matter where they are in the world, so that these different nations will actually have a distinctive, not only a distinctive identity, but a distinctive way of functioning that will be less colonial and less exploitive and less economically tied to one system. So this is my report, and we're going to be seeing much of this occurring in the next few months and in the next few years, that there will be some kind of a shift in how countries see themselves and start to separate themselves from the colonial past. During the latter half of the 1800s and into the days of the territory of Hawaii, many thousands of Hawaiians were dispossessed of their lands by the large sugar plantations and other commercial enterprises in Hawaii. In 1920, Prince Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaole, as a delegate to the U.S. Congress, got a bill passed called the Hawaiian Homestead Act. The purpose of the act was to place Hawaiians back on the land so they could sustain themselves and their families. However, Those in charge of the distribution of those lands found many excuses to not distribute the lands, but instead leasing the best lands to the plantations and other commercial interests. Under the United States stewardship, very few lots were allocated to Hawaiians waiting on the list. In 1959, the Statehood Act turned over the administration of Hawaiian homelands to the state of Hawaii. There was some improvement, but not much. Tens of thousands of Hawaiians who qualified for land died waiting for it. Today, there are still 28,000 people on the list. 24 years ago, our next guest, Leona Kalima, filed a lawsuit taking the state of Hawaii to court for failing to award homesteads to Hawaiians who had been waiting for decades on the Hawaiian homestead list. The case became known as Kalima versus State of Hawaii. Last year, after a decades-long legal fight for their land rights, Hawaiians on the Kalima case won a monumental settlement of $328 million. With us in our studio today to tell us more and update us is Leona Kalima, the lead plaintiff in the case. Aloha mai, Leona.
Thank you for
Welcome
having
to
me, Leona.
Free Hawaii
Greatly
News.
Appreciate it. Greatly
Yes, well, this is really great news to us. I remember reading when it was announced a year ago, and we know that settlement is quite a hefty settlement, and so we wanted you to tell us a little bit more about it. First of all, why was it, or how and why was the law case?
Okay. We'll have to go back to our Governor Waihe'e. And, you know, we really got to give a heads-on aloha to him, because he started the individual claims, which was supposed to be what happened to you on the wait list, dealing with DHHL. We had about 9 categories, but let me back up a little bit. What had happened is that the claims were going through the legislature. Our first claimants of 356 that was heard by the individual claims panel, represented by Mr. Ching, went to the ledge, got vetoed by Ben Cayetano. The second, Mrs. Bonner's class, 56, was...
In other words, the legislation was being sought to open it up so that you could get some kind of recourse.
No, it was to okay the claims and start paying.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh,
start
okay.
paying that first batch of claims.
I see.
And so that was rejected, okay? So Mrs. Bonner, 56, her claimants went through the panel, got a decision, never went to ledge to be processed, and that's pretty well we cut off. Then the remaining, so if you look at 2,723 odd claimants with over 5,000 claims, the rest, after you take out Mr. Ching and you take out Mrs. Bonner, the rest is Kalima. And that's why the Kalima is at the top, because I represent almost 2,000 plus whose claims were never heard. So when Cayetano vetoed and was not going to continue with this, Native Hawaiian Legal Corp actually stepped in. And they wanted to preserve the claims, preserve the initiative to seek what individual claims panel was supposed to do under Governor Waihe'e. I was at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I was their housing counselor. And they needed, these claims were being rushed in through Native Hawaiian Legal Corp, to the individual claims with Melanie McKenzie, and it was just a rush. So they called OHA. I took care of it, you know, like I took claims in and stuff, made sure people got a notice, because there wasn't too much advertising behind this. In the course of 23 years is the back and forth in the legal system, going back and forth with the different, I think we went like to 7 judges, something like that, and it kept on bouncing around. Finally, in 2009, Judge Ideen Hifu, AKA Bambi Wild, got the case. And we testified and everything. People came in to testify and everything. And so under her judgment, we won. We won. So this was 2009. And so they kept us lingering in the court, back and forth. We went to about 2-3 more judges even after that.
Were those appeals? Or
Yeah, the state. The state was appealing the process and stuff. So we kept on going through that. Okay. What I want to point out is that during the course of the lawsuit, and we found out after the processes and stuff were done last year, this year, 1,100 of our claimants died. So it's almost double indemnity that they're dying on the wait list, and then they're dying on the lawsuit wait list, which is just outrageous, outrageous. So what had happened during the course of these years is that the lawyers were trying to get the state to settle. Okay. At one time, the Department of Interior, Sally Jewels, came to town, and I made a copy with, I think, like 109 pages of the lawsuit to her, and said, we got to move on this because, the state keeps us hanging on, right? So they got on it, and Rhea, RHEACU, was my contact person in the DOI. And she said, the state hasn't settled with you for anything? I said, no. So within a couple days, the state did come back with a first offer of $17 million. So it was like, no, we're not taking this. No. So of course the linger went on. Yeah. So we're talking 2009, linger goes on. And then we come to, I heard about it when I was in the hospital, gang. I was in the hospital, and one of the nurses brought the front page because my picture was on it with this big amount going across the, I was just so happy. I was just so happy that.
I was elated when I saw
that.
Yeah,
it was like, this is history being made.
Yes.
Because how many lawsuits have gone through that actually is going to put money in people's pocket, especially Hawaiians? Where we are today is we went through a process with EPICS, and our claimants should have the letter already telling them how much they're going to get. What we're looking at right now as maybe the aftermath of all this is we're looking to, for one, purchasing land and creating wealth for our people. We've been in negotiations with a realtor and a couple of legislators that have supported the effort and stuff. So that's one component we're looking at. We're talking a form of genocide. They're on this list, forever dying on it. And what is interesting is that you need a 50%er to get on that list to carry your place.
Right.
It doesn't go to the 25% until the lease is given out. So who's to say those heirs to the ones that died have 50%?
Right. For those of you who don't know what we're referring to, the 50% was stipulated in the original Hawaiian Homes Act.
Yes.
By Congress, that a person had to have 50% Hawaiian blood in order to qualify to apply for lands.
Yes.
Which means anybody with a little less than 55, like myself, would not qualify.
Yeah.
And that has been a real, another device used to disenfranchise our people from our lands.
Yes.
Because 50%ers are dying off.
Yes.
And that is becoming, and that some of us believe that was purposefully done.
Of course. Leon, I purposely married 100% Hawaiian because there would be no doubt that my children would have. In working with a realtor, we're looking at 600 acres in Makaha, serious. And from there,
to
develop homes,
housing,
develop economic development, whatever it's going to take to build wealth. And that's one thing I'm looking at, not that we're going to be wealthy, but at least we're going to have land. We're going to look at, owning your own house and maybe even boost up the economics in Waianae. Those things we're looking towards too. And we'd like to possibly do this on every island. So the infrastructure for something like this, for one thing, we want to have financial literacy.
So this is not connected to the Hawaiian Homelands program itself.
No, it's not.
This is just a
fee simple
project of those that of you and others that are coming through.
Yeah, so, that coming into money.
So that the money will be applied toward a community or group-owned project like this. That's great.
And we're still kind of figuring out, because this is a first-time thing. You know, and we don't want people to like spend their money, buy a new car, go Vegas, you know, stuff like that. I mean, I can see you know, I can see money because even me, I can pay my bills, but keep the money as much as you can keep because we want to build.
Yeah.
We want to build
So
houses.
the money is being purposed for housing.
Yeah.
So that our people get on the land and in houses.
And through home ownership,
Yeah.
you build wealth. Yeah. And so what we hope will happen also is that it generates to the family. And we need kids to go to college. We need to, you know, do all those things to empower our Hawaiian community. And that's the big vision. We just have to take it to the road. My message to the claimants is like, hang on. You know, give us a little time to work this out. If you really are looking at home ownership, yeah. And this would include some even on the mainland, because our lawsuit.
You mean in America?
Yeah, over there.
Yes.
Over there. And so we want them to say, you know, if they come home.
And possibly bring them home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Possibly bringing them home. You know, because if you look at our statistics as far as Hawaiians in the islands, we ain't got it. You know. So we want to build that up.
Only half of the Hawaiians live in Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah. So at least we want to give that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. And the fact that these people can pass on the lease, if we, you know, I want to work with Department of Hawaiian Homelands and OHA, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and stuff like that. Get a buy-in from them because you have to qualify for a loan, things like that. So we want to make sure that infrastructure is in.
So that was another kind of how would you say, a hindrance to people who do have Hawaiian homelands.
Yeah.
In that they cannot use it for collateral to get a loan.
Yeah.
And whereas
it's
other
just
people
very
with leasehold lands can. But not Hawaiians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think this is just a, you know, whatever. But I won't go there. But while we have this going on, let's take it to the 10th power. You know, and what we can do to put our people in housing and stuff, and then create an economy around that and stuff. And if that can happen, then why not every island?
Yes.
You know, creating this on every island.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, that's wonderful. Go for it, you know, because too long already. Too long. Oh, people are dying on the list. They died on the lawsuit. They're dying on the list. That's just too hurtful. Just too hurtful.
Yes. Well, I certainly appreciate your sharing this with us because this is a landmark case, and I'm glad to hear that something even more, even greater is going to come
out
from
of it.
this.
Yeah. And I want to mention I'm wearing pink. I was going to wear black. Because on Statehood Day, you know, we want to go black because people died on the list. But I went with pink today and I made this ribbon. We support Maui. We support Lahaina. And our people there too. They need help.
Yes.
They need as much help as possible. You know, and Waimanalo is doing their share with Blanche them.
Right.
And filling up containers that are going to be shipped. So while we look at what is here, as far as the Kalima case, our people are hurting.
Yes.
So we all got a kukua to that.
Right.
You know, we just don't leave people out there. We embrace them.
But now we're
help
seeing
them.
hope on the horizon.
Yeah, for the Kalima case, that brings hope.
Yes.
You know,
and
meanwhile,
other cases that are coming forward.
Oh,
too.
they've already been talking about that. You know, but I'm like, no, let me finish this. Let me finish this.
Yes.
You know.
Well, again, I appreciate your visiting with us here.
Oh, sure, anytime, Leon. Greatly
Yes.
appreciate it.
Mahalo nui. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha dea. God bless.
You
God
too.
bless.
We know what it means to show aloha. And when Hawaiians really show aloha to one another, there's nothing that you cannot achieve. Nothing is impossible when we have aloha and we give and give and give. I know that it's a sore topic out there, so I'll say it here. For all of our tourists, you know, for our Kanaka out there, when you have to engage with the malihini haole, a'ole pilikia, do your best, because at some point you may have to have interaction with them, and may you find the strength and may you find the patience to engage them and help usher them along their way. And for the tourists that are on the island of Maui, we ask you to have aloha for our people. The aloha spirit, as some people like to call it, is two ways. Just as important as it would be to ho'okipa, to welcome you and to take care of you and to share what we can with you, we now look to you, our malihini haole, to our visitors, our guests, and to the foreigners who are coming to Hawaii from abroad. This is the time where we need to look within. We need to help heal and repair ourselves. So we ask all of you to please have aloha for us as soon as you are able, and whenever that shuttle or that bus or that plane comes to take you off the island of Maui, please go with our appreciation, go with our gratitude. Please know that the greatest service that you could do is to alleviate the stress and the pressures of having our people not be able to malama you in the proper way, and just go knowing that now is our time for Maui, especially our Maui families and our community, to rally and to look within.
Mahalo nui for joining us here on Free Hawaii News. It's been a pleasure to share this information with you, and we want to thank all of our guests who came to share the mana'o.
Mahalo anui ko kākou hui ana, a hui ho, aloha.
Aloha.
We hope you enjoyed this month's episode of Free Hawaii News. Mahalo for watching. There's a new show every month, so this program will air several more times this month. You can view it anytime on Olelo's on-demand site or on YouTube. See you next time. A hui ho, aloha aina.
Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network.